Alright, welcome. Today I'm going to be essentially starting the Fundamentals of Public Forum uh, resource series. So pretty much, over the course of however many videos I decide to make, I'm essentially going to be teaching you guys what, what is PFD, um, you know, what do, what does each speaker do, how to make a case, and how to structure each speech. Alright, so that's pretty much what I'm going to be focusing on. And so obviously today I'm going to be touching up on this topic right here, which is, of course, what is PFD? So public forum debate, or, abbreviated to PFD, is the most common style you're going to see as a debater in this, Tennessee district. While Lincoln Douglas tournaments do exist, there's not very many of them, and Big Question isn't very large in this region either. There are several other styles of debate, such as policy, extemporaneous debate. Let's see, there's congressional debate, and then there's world schools. None of what you learn here is really going to be the make or break for any of these forms of debate, and oftentimes you're only going to see these forms of debate maybe one or two events a year. Like extemp it's a side event. You can take at nationals, congressional. You can go to nationals and congressional. I believe the Morristown West tournament offers congressional. World schools pretty much the same thing as extemp. You can go to nationals on it, but it's not really that big of a deal. Policy, I've never taken policy. I've actually never seen anything that has offered policy, but I do know it's fairly large. So there's those forms of debate. This is just going to be focusing mainly on public forum. The principles of public forum can help you with big question debate. And while I've personally never Lincoln Douglas, I believe, the principles and the skills you learn in PFD can also translate over to Lincoln Douglas. So, that's pretty much the name and whatnot. Other debate styles. So moving into public forum, what we see in public forum is it's a very organized and very technical style of debate. So unlike extemp, unlike BQD, which is very kind of fast and loose, this is very structured, and if you don't understand what you're doing, you are guaranteed to lose. And so that's kind of what this first video is aiming at. So this is kind of your first taste of what debate is, and if you don't like it, good, back out now, because you are going to hate yourself. If you do like it, keep going deeper into the rabbit hole till it pushes you out, or till you graduate, whichever one happens first. So today what we're going to be doing, as I say for the fifth time, what I'm going to talk about now is the speakers. So first speaker, as you can probably tell, is the person who speaks first. Okay, so the first speaker for a team. Okay, so what the first speaker is responsible for is this first constructive. So constructive 1, speaker 1 crossfire, summary 1, and grand crossfire. Okay, both speakers speak 3 speeches. Well, I guess 2 speeches with, a crossfire. And then grand being split amongst all speakers evenly. So the first speaker for the team is responsible for laying out all the information. Okay, so I don't say this literally, but I say this just as a general, kind of like a general rule of thumb. Okay, so as the first speaker, what you do is you get up and you simply lay out your case. Okay, you are the person who is going to be very aggressive, you're going to be very loud, and you're going to have to be able to command, with your voice. Okay, you have to have a good voice, you have to be able to, assert yourself, and you have to exude confidence. Because if you don't do that, you're not going to be a first speaker, you're going to be a bad first speaker. Okay, this is where the bulk of your argument comes from, okay? Is within this first speaker role. So this is arguably the most important of the two. However, this isn't. I'll go into the second speaker's roles later. So as a first speaker, we have all of this stuff. Now, what do you have to do as a first speaker? So aside from making sure that you can actually speak, you have to be able to. Okay, so you have to be able to read and speak fluidly. All right, now I don't know if that might be how you spell fluidly. Whatever. So now this may seem, kind of wacky, kind of stupid, like everybody can do it, but you'd be surprised. Not everybody can look at a piece of paper, look at, look at a passage, look at an excerpt, or even a speech, and just be able to say it smoothly as if it's rehearsed while just reading it normally. Okay, it's a skill that a lot of people have, a lot of people don't. Make sure you have this as a first speaker, because if you don't, your speech is going to sound very choppy, and you have to have a very natural flow in order for your argument to get across very well. You will also be doing the bulk of the writing and research for the case. Okay, so you also have to have a decent level of reading comprehension. You also have to know how to find, cite, and argue different sources, and you also have to know how to actually write a speech, which I will get into later in this series. But right now, this is kind of just the overview of what a first speaker does. I have done both of these roles, and while first speaker has its charms, I personally prefer second speaker. This is simply because the second speaker, a team, is responsible for all the rebuttal. Okay, I'll put rebutting. Okay, so as a second speaker, what you have to do is, instead of being very aggressive and loud, you kind of have to mellow out. Okay, so you have to take a step back. Alright, because as I've explained to a lot of people that are trying to decide between first and second speaker, you have to just take a step back, and you have to understand, hey, the judge I am screaming at for 4 minutes doesn't want to listen to me scream, especially when I'm not supposed to, because that's the first speaker's role. The first speaker is supposed to be disliked. They're supposed to be the obnoxious one. The second speaker, on the other hand, you're supposed to just calm it down. You're supposed to say, hey, judge, here's why my opponent's wrong. You speak slowly. Whereas, and I forgot to mention with first speaker, is read and speak fluidly. You have to be able to do it fast. Okay? Okay, this has to be very quick. So keep that in mind with first speaker. You'll see what I mean as I get farther and farther along. But just keep in mind, as a first speaker, if you can't do this, you can't speak quickly, and you can't do it fluidly, then you're not going to make a good first speaker. Okay? So as a second speaker, what you do is you kind of let go of all that aggression. All right, so you're very, in other words, chill. Okay. And so as a second speaker, what you have to be able to do is you have to be able to create an impromptu argument. Okay. Alright, so this is a little easier than it may seem, because this is a 4-minute speech that you're doing completely off the wing, but it's not like you don't have resources. Instead, as a second speaker, what you have to have is a decent memory. You also have to have, you also have to be somewhat personable. Okay, so, and this shouldn't be too difficult, considering that, as a part of this, you're a part of a speech club, which means your entire purpose here is to sympathize and kind of connect with some random stranger just based off the personality that you choose to show through a speech. So you shouldn't worry too much about that, but just keep in mind that is a factor. So those are. Oh, I didn't explain what the memory part of second speaker. Okay. So, wait, one more thing. With second speaker, you also have to take better notes. So you have to be a good note taker. And I will get into that later. But with the decent memory thing. Okay, so when you walk into a debate room, you are completely unscripted, okay? So you are 100%, as a second speaker, you have nothing you're working for other than the prep that you might have going into things. Okay, so let's just put this up here. Alright, so when you walk in, first speaker is the one with the prepared case, okay? Alright, first speaker has a prepared case. Okay, second speaker, on the other hand, only has, articles that you may have saved, information that you may have archived. Let's take a look at, let's go into these Google Docs real quick. If we go into, something I've done very recently in class, I did not second speak here, but this is kind of what happened. We argued, single payer healthcare. And so what happens is the second speaker, I told her, all right, you're going to create a document, you're going to find a bunch of information, and you're going to copy and paste, potential arguments, potential information that you can drop at any point in time in a round. Okay, and this is incredibly important for several reasons. Simply because, one, alright, and this is all connecting to why you have to have a decent memory, why you have to save the articles. Okay, so one, it helps with your argument, okay. Two, it makes you seem more organized. And three, okay, and this is probably one of the most important, and I'm actually not going to type this one out, so listen up. As the second speaker, okay, while this, which I haven't gotten into times yet, but this is the layout of a debate. Okay, while the second speech between the second speakers is technically not considered a constructive, this is the last point in the debate where you can bring up completely new and off-the-wall information. So it's very important to make sure that as a second speaker, you have the ability to constantly reference through your memory, that you have the ability to understand what you've read, you have the ability to understand, hey, I have a piece of information that directly links and contrasts what my opponent is saying. That's incredibly important if you want to do debate, especially if you want to do it somewhat successfully. So that's kind of what the second speaker is. As I said, I personally prefer second speaker to first speaker, but second speaker is the more difficult role and the less important role, meaning that it is high risk, low reward. You can have a very basic second speaker that doesn't really do a lot, and a really good first speaker that can carry the debate, and you will go much farther than the other way around. So that's pretty much going to conclude everything I really want to say about the differences between first and second speaker for right now. Hopefully this wasn't too long. 12 minutes, yes it was. So I will be back with another one in just a bit.